and Pat, Fuentes, myself.
Frank's
and
here.
I think it's Frank coming in. So we have Jan and Berenice out. We have fun. Okay, we need to read the flag. Frank, you want to read the flag?
Yeah, so flag is to my left. Oh,
Oh, there it is.
well, I gotta trick them all, you gotta let me know. All right, so it's right in front of us, right, right over your heart. Ready, begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You wanna get through this?
Next.
Okay, I'm good.
You need a bigger one. Okay, I need a motion to adopt the agenda, with no amendments. So moved.
Second.
Okay, Arlo. Okay, we have, all in favor? Do I need to do a roll call or no? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? On motion by board member Faro and the Fuentes, the board adopted the agenda as recommended. Okay. Do we have any public comment tonight? Nobody here? Okay, very good. Moving on to 3.0 evaluation. I would like to welcome and invite Dick Gray to facilitate the discussion. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, just let me say, as you can probably guess, me and my dermatologist are good friends. He has me using this stuff that goes after any cell that's even thinking about becoming a cancer cell, and I didn't realize I had so many.
Wow.
But it takes care of it, but it just looks bad for a while. So I'm sorry that it didn't. I was hoping by tonight it would be, a little better, but
But it's being proactive, right? This is what, he's being proactive, he's.
right,
Good.
right, yeah. So yours not wearing a hat outside and paying the price now, yeah,
I always wear my factotum in the sun,
yeah.
and I've never had a skin cancer.
That's really wise. 'Cause I never did. And I was bald at an early age too, so it's been a problem.
It was the superintendency there? Because I know you were a superintendent really young. Like 30 something, right?
Not a superintendent, no, no. I was 45. Oh, I was a superintendent.
Is this what you have to look forward to, going out?
Yeah, really,
It's falling off.
it ages you, yeah, but still. Folks, you did a good job on your governing board self-evaluation. And if you look at the analysis and summary report, this assessment, remember, covers 7 governance areas, and there's actually 42 governance indicators that you rated. And it was a 1 to 4 rating. 1 meant never, that the board really never did what the statement was talking about. If you gave it a 2, that means seldom did the board do what that governance indicator was talking about. 3 was often you did it as a board, and 4 was always. Now, 4 being always, there's very few things that you always can do. So what this meant was always and almost always were 4s. If you look down in the data section, I gave you there the composite score for each of the 7 sections. And also indicated what last year's score was for that same section. So for board meeting superintendent relations, last year it was 3.65, and this year it was 3.61. So almost exactly the same, just hundredths of a point difference. In board meetings, 3.83, 3.80. Board community relations, 365, 368. So you can see it really tracks down very closely. Now, I want to call your attention to something because it's really important. If you look at all those scores for the 7 areas, what you see is that they're all in the middle 3s. They're all between often and always. That's exactly where you want to be. Exactly. That is really saying, wow, as a board, you're really doing well. And also, I'll show you in just a few minutes, you had very few actual 2 scores. Anybody marking a 2. And none of the scores came out in the 2s at all. And so usually a score in the 2, that would be a red flag. That's an area where you really want to take a hard look at. Your lowest score was 3.0. Often. So that is excellent. And you know, I've always told you guys, you're one of my favorite boards to do this with. Yeah, there's a reason. You're really a good, solid board, and you see yourselves as a good, solid board. And you really should celebrate that. If you turn to the next page in the survey, your highest category was board meetings, and that was the same as last year. Last year was 3.83, and this year was 3.80. I mean, it's just virtually the same. And wow, that's great. I mean, there are not a lot of boards San Bernardino County that can show a 3.8 self-assessment on board meetings, especially, and that being your highest. So that is just outstanding. So again, good for you on that. Good, solid board, and your strength is in the board meeting area. Your lowest category, last year you just really had one lowest, and that was board in service at 3.32. This year there were really 2 that were almost tied for low score, and that was goal setting and planning at 3.37 and board in service at 3.36. So 3.6 and 3.7. For and actually, I've listed here some of the comments that were made for both of those. Those 2 areas, based on the comments, it was real easy to see that this is an area that you knew that looked like you really wanted to work on, these 2 areas. And when we go over the other one, I'll talk to you a little bit more about the comments. Some really good comments on it. The next thing we look at is we look for variances. red flags are where we see the board just spread all over the place on their perception of one of the board, of one of the indicators. And you had very few. I mean, you'll see when we get into the other document that you were very, very consistent in scoring between 3 and 4 on these items, with very few 2s and very few that were spread among the 7 of you all over the place. There's just a few of those, and they'll stand out. But those are ones to pay attention to, because those are ones that where you're really not kind of thinking the same way on that particular issue. And so those are always ones to look at a little bit, discuss a little bit, see where everybody's coming from, and we'll do that as we go through the big document. You also had 4 questions where you rated everybody, all 7 of you gave a unanimous 4 to those. So that was great. I mean, that's real interesting. You seldom see that kind of unanimity, especially with a 4. And so that's really very much to your credit, that boy, you're really all together on those indicators. So as we go through and you see the ones that have 4s, take a look at those and be kind of proud of those, because you all see them the same way and as very good. Okay. All right, let's go to the other document, if we could, and we'll go through these. The first section is board superintendent relations. It had a 3.61 rating as a section, which is very good. That's right in the middle between often and always. So that's good. And now let's take a look at the actual indicators. Number 1 is promptly communicates all expectations, compliments, concerns, or criticisms of the school system to the superintendent. We had 6 of you that said, yes, that always happens, and 1 that says seldom. There was a comment. Some are using the board meetings to address items that can be addressed by way of email or phone. And there was another comment that was, I can only speak for myself, and I know I do. Any questions on that one? Or comments? Okay. Number 2, avoids infringing on the superintendent's area of responsibility. This was split between, this is 3.4, again, that's right in the middle between often and always. 4 of you marked a 3 and 3 of you marked a 4 on that one. The other way of saying that, and maybe a more positive way, is you know your role and stay within it. And so that's just excellent. Number 3, follows good procedures in communicating with staff. Again, 3 3s, 4 4s. Avoids publicly criticizing the superintendent. 2 3s and 5 4s on that one. Encourages the superintendent's participation in professional associations and activities. 3 3s, 4 4s, excellent. The next one, we got a little bit of a spread. demonstrates respect toward the superintendent, members of staff, and cabinet and district staff. So we had 1, 2, 1, 3, and 5 4s on that one. And a comment, constructive feedback can be helpful, but when it becomes criticism, it can demoralize staff. But that was one of the ones where there was a little bit of a spread.
Is that a red flag?
Well, it's just not, well, the interesting thing was then everybody else was a 4. So it still came out with 3.57, very strong rating. But there were 2 of you who felt differently on that one. On the next page, still in this section, number 7, places trust in the superintendent and in the integrity of the superintendent, cabinet, and staff. Here the scoring was 6 3s and 1 4 for a 3.1 rating. And we had a comment, it's imperative that we continue working on open communication and transparency to allow us to make the best decisions for our students. Any comments on those? Number 8, also a little spread on this one, a 2, a 3, and then 5 4s. And the comment, we need to establish clear and measurable goals. I know you have your long-term goals, your big strategic goals. You've had those for a couple of years now. You did a good job in identifying those. I didn't quite understand the folks that had a 2 or 3, if they were thinking that they were not clear enough. Are they not clear enough to the public or to the teachers or to the board? Any comments on that one? Okay. Evaluates the superintendent annually. Yes, of course you do. So everybody marked a 4. That was great. Maintains a professional compensation package for the superintendent. Yes. 5 4s and a 3. Section 2 is board meetings. A 3.8, which is, wow, a really high score for board meetings. Again, that was your highest score as it was last year. Number 1, conducts all board meetings effectively and efficiently. You had 1, 2, and 6 4s. And the comment, board meetings can run very long.
Well, I know we had that one midnight, which it's not a good idea to do that because we get so tired.
Well, and some people had to go to work the next day. So
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah,
and I think
so-
that's just, we ended up, didn't we have a lot of presentations that night?
Yeah, I
mean,
think, yeah, so I think maybe we can
I
monitor.
felt sorry for you guys that have to go to work.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe we can monitor that, kind of pace it and see, so we can foresee how long it'll go.
Well, a while back, we had requested that, couple of things that the school showcase only be 5 minutes long. We said also, that's the rule we gave out. There were more rules to it, but that pertains to the 5 minutes. And then we only have 2 presentations, and because otherwise, especially like if it's LCAP or something like that, where there's a lot of questions asked. We know that it's not just two presentations, it's a conversation afterwards. So if you put multiple presentations on, it's gonna meeting's gonna go long. It doesn't make sense. And I think the other part of this too is not just do the meetings run long, but we've had the most, I don't know about you, Frank, in my 12 years, this is the most special board meetings we have ever had.
Thinking about that earlier today.
It is.
I've never.
And a lot of them are like, today we have a meeting, and then we have a regular meeting on Thursday. So that's just hard on everybody, not just us, but staff too. You know, so I mean, poor Joanne, here she is tonight, she'll be here Thursday night again. I mean, so that's really hard.
And I think too that we need to take a good look at our closed session agenda too. When we've been averaging 2 to 3 attorneys per meeting. And of course, you know, and that takes a while as well. So.
Even our public comment, if they're gonna talk about the same thing, I think we can always give them just a certain amount of time if they're just gonna come up and talk about the same thing. For example, if we have a group of people that are coming in because of the mask mandate, and I know our public comments have been long, some of these, and they've always been the same. And I think if we were to do 15 minutes for a group, like it says on the form there, I think that would cut down too, because when you got 3 minutes and you got 15 people for 3 minutes that want to say the same thing, that's
the only.
a lot.
But I think at that point, it was a good decision because we let them talk and they shut up finally. There are districts that are still hearing from those people.
Yeah, okay, that's exactly what I was gonna say. There's some times where, even we just have to. just
And
allow
that's
them to-
and that's part of the thing. But I mean, if we know we're gonna have a long public comment, then we need to look at the agenda and say,
Yeah.
okay, what can we postpone for the next meeting?
Yeah.
So it won't take that long.
Just so you guys know that this is open session discussion. Okay, yeah, this is also being broadcasted across the board.
Oh,
Just remind our this is not a closed session discussion. So this is being. In terms of process, I'll just say to the board that we're cautious of that. I've heard the comments about this year, definitely about the board meetings. It's been, coming out of COVID has been a lot more difficult than actually being in COVID. This is a transition year, so Bertha and I, who work on the agenda together, so we work on it. We work on it with cabinet. We try to definitely anticipate and try to make sure that whatever we're doing is relevant, especially this year with what's at stake. It's been a year like no other coming out of COVID, and so I anticipate and I think Bertha can attest to this, that as we move into 22-23, the board meetings, you'll see a shift in the amount, because you guys are absolutely right. We're we are having special board meetings that require us to get together, to get the board together, and so but I totally get it.
Well, and I think part of it is, we've had so many decisions we've had to make because of the warehouse situation in this community, that it takes a lot of discussion to do that, and that's really out of our hands. And we have to do that to make the best decision for the kids in our district, the community.
Yeah, this board, you guys have had to make some very difficult, challenging decisions this year by far. I mean, especially with COVID and coming out of this. So,
I think
not to blame everything on COVID, because we can't blame everything on there, but
I think you're right, Frank. It's just the year that we're in after COVID, pandemic. I think not just even school boards, but I mean other boards that are out there are probably having more special meetings and longer board meetings than usual.
Yeah, I think, and Dick can attest this too, sorry, like,
Absolutely.
when you see like our neighbors having board meetings till 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
A lot, every board meeting goes
Yeah.
to 2 or 3 in the
Yeah.
morning. Right, Dick? I'm not gonna, you guys,
All over the county. I mean, out in Trona and out, I mean, it just
this is
everywhere.
everywhere.
It's been.
Santa Ana has them till 2, 3 in the morning on Friday evenings.
My daughter was working with LA Unified and, they start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and they went till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Wow.
I think it's a circumstance that we're in that we have to have,
So,
we have to have special.
I guess we're not that
We're
bad.
not done.
We're
No,
doing
but
good then.
we can tighten it up.
Well, and I think because of COVID, so many things happened universally across the nation and probably the world. You know, I read an article the other day about teachers and how this year was more difficult for them than during learning all the things they had to do
Oh,
for
yeah,
COVID.
heck yeah.
Because kids didn't know how to relate to their peers anymore, teachers. It was just relearning how to teach and having a whole set of students that respond differently because they missed a year of social emotional learning. And plus they're, didn't get all the instruction that they would have gotten if they'd been. So at the classroom level and everywhere else, just not being around people and we had to relearn some of that. And how does it work now? And then we had, in things that we've been discussing, supply can't get in, so we have bigger problems coming. We can't provide this or that because we can't get the stuff because it's sitting in a ship in Long Beach. And I mean, there's just a lot of things. So I guess if we look back on it and find the reasons, there's a reason for it. But it's frustrating because when is all this gonna ever end is how we all feel.
We're just trying to play catch up. And that's part of all this extra things that we do.
All the changes that are coming and everything, so we have
Yeah,
to
that's true.
have special board meetings just to make the right decisions,
Yeah.
so.
And going back to, the special board meetings, I know you mentioned Frank and Pat, that this is the most you've ever had. Personally, myself, I feel that they're very much needed because if you look at the CSBA, anything, I research successful boards, they always have workshops and special board meetings for different things because we need that time outside of the agendized items to learn. And in my opinion, as a learning, we're educators. I feel like I'm okay with special board meetings, honestly.
But they're not workshops. We haven't had workshops, not, other than this one, they haven't been where we're doing a workshop where we're learning.
And I'm referring to workshops. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm calling them special board meetings, but what I'm saying
That's
is,
different. That's different than what we've been having to do.
We've had, we had the LCAP, we also had the DSDP in here. So what we try to do is have them related to some kind of instructional focus. So we've had, and so, but as Joanne mentioned, the big one really has been our issue with our warehouses. And that's, that's something we can't control. And when we have them in closed session on a regular board meeting, that's the reason why we go to 11, 12 o'clock. And the board cannot make a good decision. And so that's why we have to make them, separate from, because being in closed session is like, you're tired, it's been a long day for a lot of you, so.
I had a question regarding long board meetings. Because I think it was March or April, when we had the long meeting with a lot of presentations. And I mean, yeah, Frank and I can look at, what can we take off for the next time or what, or plan it accordingly.
But, we've also talked about another board meeting, one more board meeting into our, calendar, the scheduled meetings. Is that something that the board feels we need to do, or do we need to just keep the board meetings that we have currently? The 2 board meetings a month and then periodic one.
I'm okay with the 2 meetings a month, and if we have to have a special board meeting,
And
then.
instead of agenda.
Yes. I think
Because
because, yeah,
What's gonna happen is
We'd
we're
end up
gonna, we're
filling-
gonna do 3 and then we're still gonna have special. board
Yeah.
meeting.
Exactly, exactly.
so I
That's
think,
what's
I think if
gonna
we
happen.
continue to and just have the special board meeting, I'm good. I have no problem with special board meetings.
Neither, I've always said.
As long as I'm available, and it's good because you let us know in advance, hey, what dates do you guys have available? So
But that's why we've always, what you call it, capped it at 2 hours. And so it won't go any longer.
And the special board meeting is for something important, either a training like this or evaluation like this, or something that we really need to discuss that needs to have thought to it. That's the reason for special board meetings. And because of the situations and things that are happening in our community is the reason why we have a special board. That's my thought.
So what I'm hearing is not to add any more.
Have you thought of looking at it just maybe a little differently and look at your whole year's worth of board meetings and look by month? And Joanne could be your big help with this. And where are your lightest meetings? What months could you get away with 1 board meeting instead of 2? And then just schedule it. Try that for next year, say, gee, maybe, 3 of those months, we could historically have a little lighter agenda. Let's try
Just do
just
one.
1 board meeting that month and just schedule it that way and see how it
We do
goes.
that.
We do that, don't we?
Yeah, we have
December,
Vacation time,
December.
December.
April.
July.
July,
we used to have June, just 1, 2, because of graduations.
Yeah.
Yeah, the budget changed the process when the LCAT came in.
Yeah,
They
that
required a
screwed that
hearing.
up, yeah.
Yeah, they'll blame the state because they require the hearing before we could, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That messed that up. But if there's a way to see if you could squeeze in maybe even a couple more months with just 1. That's one way to ease that off a little bit. And I just tell you a personal story. I had the same discussion with a board years ago, same kind of thing. We were having 3 board meetings a month, 2 regular board meetings, and an extra closed session board meeting. And so we started looking for months that we could just do 1 meeting. And then those went pretty well. And so then we tried a year with just 1 board meeting a month, and then adding a special board meeting when we had to. If we could get by without it, we did. But if we needed it, we had a second meeting that month. And they're still doing that. It's been 20 years, and then that district is still using that plan. And it's a big district, same size as yours. So,
you've heard of Long Beach board meetings, right? Unified, they're legendary. They don't go more than 30 minutes.
They don't go more than.
They're
Really?
open session, but they have closed session at the beginning. We could go visit them. Real-
Because it works out good because you, when you have attorneys,
You know,
then they're at the beginning rather than sitting there waiting for hours till we get into closed session. So we used to do closed sessions in the beginning of session.
Fontana does that.
Yeah.
Beforehand.
Yeah, the Long Beach, I mean, You can take a road trip.
I heard about that. 30 minutes.
They're legendary over there, so they do closed
Oh, I
session
heard
again, like
about
you
that.
said, and
It's good to
then
know.
15, 20 minutes, they're done.
My,
Oh, closed
family
session is
was one.
50%? Or-
No,
oh,
I forget at what time, they said like at 4-ish, something like that. And then, yeah, so, tomorrow, in fact, I'm gonna list, the former superintendent, of Long Beach is gonna present at a summit that I'm attending. So I'm gonna ask him, how did you do that?
How can they ever do any kind of
Yeah.
information, presentation on LCAP?
Yeah, now Cap.
How do they do all those things? And, I mean, that takes 30 minutes right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, somehow they get it done, and they've done pretty good over the last, he just retired, so, 2 years ago. They're still, I mean, I think they're the largest, the highest performing large urban district in the state by far.
So how does the board get information though? I mean, without presentations, I don't, I'm curious
Yeah,
about
it's
that.
a good question. I'm not sure if if they continue with it, because he was superintendent for 18 years. So they figured it out. Tomorrow he's gonna tell the story.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he's interesting. He's
yeah,
interesting.
you've
to
heard him speak,
listen to.
right?
Yeah, I know him well.
Steinhauser, is that? I
Um,
forget his first name.
Yeah,
Anyways, and I'll just say procedural wise, though, the board, during the reorg would have to make a decision, right, to do like the closed session at the beginning and all that. That would be a December decision, am I right? Could the board do that?
You could,
Now for
yeah, you
22,
would,
23?
could propose it at the reorganization when we pick the times,
Mhm.
you know, keep it the same 2, the 1, and then moving the agenda, the closed session.
Closed session to the beginning, right? It does have to be, yes, during the reorg?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
So
when you would.
at that point, will we come up with plan A and plan B, or?
Yeah.
Because there was that decision.
Yeah,
have to
well, we
be
could,
made.
we could come up, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
With options A, B, and C for the board,
Mhm,
or whatever, A, B, C, D.
yeah, agree.
And then the board would decide, just like we did with the start times, right? You know, we changed this, the board changed the start times.
Why was it moved to begin with?
The
Why
start
was it
times?
changed? Why?
Oh,
We had 2 board members who wanted the board meeting to start at 6 because they worked far away, so we changed it.
But as far as moving, closed session first, or?
I don't remember why it was changed. Do you think?
Yeah, I wanna say that the union started to complain that they didn't get an opportunity, timely opportunity to state any cases that we were bringing in closed session. And if we were making decisions and coming out with a decision and they wouldn't be able to have a say. And that's what I was gonna mention, if we were to do something like that, we would almost have to do a second public comment just for the closed section agenda, prior to going in.
Yeah. We could always do
Yeah.
the flag and all that and then do public comment on only the items in closed session and then go to closed session. That's easy.
and that's what boards do when they
Yeah.
have
They have a
closed
double.
session
But then the
before. They
audience will
open
sit
it,
and
they
wait
open the
for
meeting and
hours,
then.
or what?
If,
Yeah.
if they know we're going to closed session first, they used to come after.
Well, because of what time, an hour
Yeah.
later or something.
So I'm trying to understand that then open session would have a set time, so that means that if we're in closed session and then it, open session is at 6 or 7, we would have to wrap it up and then go open session at a certain time?
And that's what I was thinking, because I remember where I used to work. The closed session was first, and sometimes we ended up waiting a long time and the audience is out there a long time. So we'd have to be very mindful about, at this point in time, we need to be done
Yeah.
so that we don't have people out there waiting on us. And
And the
It
other
sends a really
complaint
bad
was,
message
just
to me.
reminded me, was the students' presentation. They would come and then would have students waiting
Yeah,
and that discussion was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we moved them up.
Yeah, and then we
And
just
then,
wanted.
so it wasn't kind of like the first thing.
Yeah.
There was a few things we did first.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to be at the end and it doesn't have to be right at the beginning. We could do the flag and we could do the school student presentation. We could even do it after public comment. So we don't have 2 public comments, it could just be public comment for everything and then go into close and then come back.
And you can always go back into closed session after you go, finish open session.
You know?
if you had to.
If we didn't finish our closed session. I think.
Yeah.
But it makes, to me, it makes sense to think about that because we have lawyers coming in and we're paying by the hour and we're sitting in the audience. That's
Well,
not
they're
money.
coming
Well,
early
it's-
too. I
Yeah, they
noticed
come early.
They're coming early.
But you have a lot of control of what you do first and second and, in closed session. You can work on that, work that out usually. Well, folks, the next item is really great. This one provides opportunities for public participation in board meetings and sets clearly defined procedures for community members to address the board. Boy, 7 4s on that one. So you've done a really good job, even in light of COVID and all the challenges with COVID and people in group speaking, and you're really together on that one. Good for you.
I think that's, we all feel this is one important because we are serving our community and we want them to have an opportunity. Sometimes it's hard to hear what they're saying, but we need to hear it. And so I think that, as a board, I think that has served us well.
And during COVID, it was really important that we hear from the community, and thanks to Joanne, reading all the public comments.
Oh, that's right.
You did a great job at that, by the
Yeah,
way.
she did, poor thing, having to read every one that was mailed in so yeah, so no, we still did it.
And people just want to be heard. And I mean, that's just human nature. And so you guys have understood that and gone with that. And that's to your credit because the perception that's out there is that this is a board that listens and they care about us and they listen to us. And that's right where you want to be. So good for you.
Yeah.
Good job. Number 3 is maintains and follows procedures for developing an agenda and getting materials to board members in advance of meetings as agreed upon between the board and the superintendent. We had 6 4s and 1 3. Number 4 makes a sincere effort to be informed on all agenda items prior to the meetings, reading their board agendas, your board agendas. And we had 5 4s and 2 3s. And the last one in that section adheres to its adopted code of ethics. You guys have a code of ethics that I noticed you've all signed. And you're one of the few districts that did that, took that extra step to actually sign that code of ethics and make that commitment. And I think that is stellar. I mean, that is really.
And I know it's a live document, I mean, it's a working document, so I really appreciate visiting it. We haven't visited, reviewed it in a few years, so. It's a good idea just to visit.
The next section, section 3, is board community relations. Again, another strong score, 3.68, right there between often and always. 1, avoids committing to a position or an issue before all relevant facts are presented. We have 3 3s and 4 4s. Allows for citizen input through public hearings, advisory committees, etc. Again, a strong showing there, 6 4s and a 3. Supports the president in his or her role as spokesperson for the district. Again, strong 5 4s and 2 3s. Disseminates information to the public following established procedures. Strong again, 3.71, 5 4s, 2 3s. Strives to maintain an open dialogue with governmental and community leaders. Here we had 3 3s and 4 4s. And there was a comment. The superintendent does a great job with community cabinet. As a board, we need to contribute more to open dialogue with community leaders throughout the year. Any comments on that one? The next section is section 4 on board qualities. This had a 3.67 rating overall. The first one displays a sincere and unselfish interest in students and contributes to their education and growth. Boy, yes. Congratulations to all of you. That's a 4, 7 fours. Just as it should be. I mean, that's what a great board does, right there. Number 2, possess knowledge of the educational process and the needs of the community. Again, strong, 3.71, 5 fours, 2 threes. Number 3, strives to improve boardsmanship skills by conducting special board workshops and participating in local and regional conferences. A 3.43, we had 4 threes and 3 fours. And a comment, 2 comments actually. Board workshops will allow the board to better implement the CUSD design plan. And the other comment was too many special board meetings, which we've already talked about.
It kind of contradicts the board's.
Yeah.
The two comments are contradictory.
Yeah. The next one is a 4.0, weighs all decisions in terms of what's the best for students of the district. What a great one to be all together on. Again, well done. Number 5 is visible in the community as a board. You have 3 threes, 4 fours. Again, right there in the middle between often and always. Right where you want to be. Number 6, respects fellow individual board members and their decisions. Again, strong, 3 threes, 4 fours. Trust fellow individual board members, 3 threes, 4 fours, again, strong. Is independent and open-minded, again, excellent. Keeps confidential matters confidential, which is huge, by the way, just huge. 3 threes, 4 fours. Again, excellent. In section 5 is board in service. This was a 3.36. Again, this was an area that was lower. But again, well over 3. So, I mean, that's really pretty good, even though it was one of your lower ones. Keeps informed by seeking and reading current literature. Again, all 3s and 4s. Keeps abreast of educational issues by attending educational workshops and conferences at the local, regional, and national levels. This is a 3.29. And here was a little more of a spread. We had a 2, 3 threes, and 3 fours. And the comment, this has been difficult due to the pandemic, but we are returning to more conferences. And I would guess that this next year I think CSBA is going to be in person this year, right? And and NSBA is, I think, also. Yeah, I think this is, I think you would probably score this differently this time next year with the more opportunities that you're going to have for conference attendance. Number 4, a little more of number 3, a little more of a spread there also. Strives towards growth through a planned board in-service program with the help of the superintendent. 2 2s, 3 3s, and 2 4s. This was actually the one with your lowest score. And the comment, there was 2 comments on this one. This will be necessary with the implementation of the CJUSD design plan. And then there was another little comment that just said DSTP with a question mark. And then annually assess board performance and commits to training necessary to improve their own performance. And this was 3 3s and 4 4s, again, strong in that one. So any comments about conferences, plans for the future? I know you're going to be doing some workshops. Already looking at Gary Rutherford coming in and doing some workshops. Boy, he's outstanding, by the way. You're gonna love Gary. And
And this is in reference to the governance, handbook that we have
Yeah.
put together.
yeah,
One of the things is that, and Bertha and I, we've talked about, and I think I've mentioned a couple of those board members, that for like number 3 of the in-service program, especially with the comment of DSDP as we implement that plan, is that we do sort of every quarter, we update the board. Not a special program, but within the board meeting. So, for example, that board meeting, there's not gonna be like a presentation. There'll be an in-service on the DSDP update, because we wanna be held, I'm saying this, accountable for the implementation of the plan. So you said you were gonna do this, Mr. Superintendent, staff? And so what I said to staff is that quarterly, we're gonna say, this is what we've done so far, this is what we're doing well, this is what we're still struggling with. So then the board can be in service on it, since that's our plan. So we'll start, the first one will be October for the board. It'll be the first in service on the DSTP plan, but it's gonna be within the board meeting, not separate. So we've had quite a bit of conversation on that. That way it becomes part of the, it's embedded in the structure and the system of the board meetings versus it just becomes the thing we do.
So it's accountability.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'll get up there and staff will get up there and say, because this year's focus is, as the board knows, is professional development. So what have we done? Did we form a team? Did we provide professional development? Those kinds of, so that you see that it's happening and not just, shelved away.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like that because I'd rather hear that in October versus here in June. It's like after the fact, so if we hear it in October, then we can get feedback.
Yes.
outstanding. So, I mean, I think you guys have some really good things planned in that area. And I think this will probably look a little different next year in this section.
Yeah, and we hope so.
Now, the next section, section 6 is policy development. Good score here too, 3.67. The note is that one of you, when you were scoring your sheet, for some reason, skipped this one. And so there were only 6, you'll see there's only 6 tally marks on these because one of you left it completely unscored, this section. So the first one is develop sound written policies and maintains an up-to-date organized policy manual which provides ready access to each policy. 2 3s, 4 4s. Cooperatively establishes policies with the administration for the operation of the district. Again, 2 3s, 4 4s. Allows appropriate input into policy development process. 2 3s, 4 4s. Provides for periodic policy review and revision when appropriate. 2 3s, 4 4s. Again, good solid section. The last section is goal setting and planning. And this is the section that actually had the most comments, generated the most comments from all of you, and also showed the most spread in the scores. So the first one establishes clearly identified district goals annually based on the assessed needs of the district and the recommendations of the superintendent. 2 3s and 5 4s. And we had a comment on here, CJUSD System Design Plan Alignment provides clarity as to where we are going and how we're going to get there. Second one, monitors annually the implementation of district goals. There we had some spread, 1 2, 1 3, and 5 4s. With the comment, quarterly reports from superintendent will help the board monitor the district goals. 3, establishes clearly identified board development goals based on the outcome of the board's self-evaluation. Here we had mostly 3s, 5 3s and 2 4s. Board goals identified, do not base them on board self-evaluation, not a clear relationship. Actually, you're doing a much better job with board goals, having them tied to your LCAP and strategic goals. So really, you're going actually beyond what this particular governance indicator is talking about. I think you're doing an even better job by tying them into your LCAP, those multi-year strategic goals. That's just outstanding. So 4, plans and implements appropriate activities for the achievement of the board development goals. We had 1 2, 3 3s, and 3 4s with the comment, taking part in team development and training is crucial to build shared knowledge, values, and commitments as a board. And the last one, again, a spread on this one, reviews and revises annually the board's long-range plans, 2 2s, 3 3s, and 2 4s, with the comment, no annual renewal of long-range plans. Remember, just a reminder, your LCAP goals are strategic multi-year goals. So those really aren't going to get changed a lot as you go along. They're going to evolve, but they're not going to be, it's not like the old days where you kind of tore up last year's goals and said, all right, now, you know, what do we want for our goals this year? So having those strategic long-range goals means that you do less revising because you have a plan a multi-year plan of how you're going to get to improvement over several years in that plan. So it is a really true strategic plan. So really you're going to see less of the renewal of those goals and more of where are we with the implementation of those multi-year goals. How far have we come? What are we going to do next? So really, almost a better question is, what's planned for this year on our strategic multi-year goals? What are the activities that are going to move us forward on those goals this year? And that's what Frank and the cabinet will be working on to bring to you and say, here's this next year's plan on how we're going to move forward on every goal, on each of the goals. And that'll tie into to then his evaluation ultimately also on progress on the plans. Okay.
Well said, Dick. I'll just add that the LCAP is the strategic plan for the district. Been around for a while because, and the board graciously or said, superintendent, these are your goals too. We then developed, after an 18-month process, the DSDP plan, and now we're called the CJUSD plan, that aligns to the strategic goals of the LCAP. There's an alignment there. So to give an example, equity is in the LCAP. That's one of the goals. Equity across the board, all students get what they need to be, so they can meet standards in math, science, and, ELA and reading. So our plan, our CJUSD plan, dives more into it, into the actual, how we're gonna get there. I mean, the LCAP is a very robust document, if you look at it. I mean, it's very specific. The actions that are in the LCAP are very, the goals are SMART goals, because they're specific and, measurable and timely and so forth. So we were trying to build, as we rolled out our plan, that alignment and that coherence. 'Cause you can't have too many plans out there, because then
No.
people are like,
You need one big
Where-
plan,
yeah, you're like, look, well, what's the plan? Like, to give you an example, I know this because my work with Summer Hill, they have a framework, right? Yes, they do. It's called a framework. So, we have the CJUSD plan. That's the game plan. That's gonna get us to meet the vision that focuses on equity and high student achievement for all kids and college and career readiness that we are striving for. So I just mentioned that because we have way too many plans, nothing gets accomplished, nothing. I mean,
Yeah, you just can't know. I mean, you spend all your time making plans and not your time moving forward on them. I mean, it's just,
and our SIPSAs also, the SIPSAs at the site align to the LCAP.
Yeah.
Those goals are the same at every school site, it says, so that there's alignment, so that starts from the top to, that there's that alignment. And, but still a work in progress. I mean, we're still, so,
yeah, but, the state with the LCAP, one of the things they said loud and clear with LCAP was districts just don't do a good job with strategic planning. They don't plan 5 years out. They don't have big 5-year plans and follow that plan for 5 years and show growth every year on that and really focus on getting improvement in those areas. So we're gonna make you do it by making you do LCAP goals, because LCAP goals are strategic multi-year goals. That's what they are. And so instead of the state board saying, you have to do strategic plans like colleges do, 5-year strategic plans or businesses do, we're gonna call it LCAP. But that's what we're looking for. We want you to get into focusing much tighter and focusing multi-year, because that's the only way we think you're gonna make real progress on some of these areas. And I think they're right. I think this is a much better system, and it really focuses resources and everybody's enthusiasm and energy and it just, I think it's gonna ultimately move us forward, move districts forward like they've never been moved before. And when you have just different goals every year, or just, we worked with a district that had board goals, and then they had superintendent goals. And then the schools had different goals. They came up with all kinds of stuff. And then all the categorical programs had goals. And there were so many goals And then they were different every year. They'd look at them and change every year, and they just didn't, and nobody made much progress on anything. There were just too many. And the energy was just dissipated over all these various goals. So being focused on the important ones and coming together on what those LCAP goals are and really focusing on everybody's energy and interest and time and everything and moving those goals over time, huge. And it's going to work. Well, guys, thank you. I just have so enjoyed working with you, and
Can I just,
thank you
Can I
again. You're a
back
great
up?
board.
can I back up a little bit?
Sure.
I have a question. Now, goal setting and planning. This to me, in my opinion, we have to have more conversations on this or address, because we have 3s and 4s. And you, like you said, it's the one that has the most
Right.
variance. So, I hate just leaving this and not going back to it. So, I mean, is the board okay with this, or do we need to have more of a clarity or discussion on this?
On which one?
Just on the last one, number 7,
The section 7.
section 7, the goal setting and planning. I'm looking at the 2, there's several 2s, 3s, and 4s.
I think on number 1, where I know it says the board establishes clearly identified districts. I think the district, I think the I think it's, I don't know, the way it's worded, is that I think the superintendent and executive cabinet, they determine what the goals are. Our job, I think, is more, not so much to clearly identify goals, but to make sure that the goals that they say they're gonna do, they do. I don't think it's, you know what I mean? We're supposed to monitor what they do. We're not supposed to tell them what to do. So that kind of, you know, it's kind of a weird thing, I guess, to me. Because we don't, they're the ones who set the goals, and we're supposed to monitor how they're being done, so to speak.
You know, one of the things too is that monitoring the goals. And someone put a comment here about quarterly reports. I think that if we monitor where we're at with some of these goals on a regular basis at a board meeting, it will support the importance of these goals district-wide. It gives us an opportunity to ask questions, discuss any issues, or just hear where we're at with these goals.
So, and I think that goes back to what you said about with the DSDP and the goals that y'all are setting, and then you're gonna let us know at the meetings quarterly where we are in the that will fill that goal, and so that will change our scores because we're doing that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Pat, would it help if we, you think if we took a look at that section and maybe reworded some of those statements to be a little more in line with the LCAP kind of idea that everyone's using with this long-term strategic goals, multi-year strategic goals?
You mean reword the way it's wording in the boxes?
In the
on left?
boxes, yeah.
Isn't this a document straight from CSBA though? Isn't this or?
No, this is
No.
one we have come up with.
Oh,
It's
okay.
based on one of their early ones.
Oh, okay.
But we can modify it to meet Colton's.
Colton needs.
Oh,
Yes.
you could, sure.
There's nothing that says we can't do that.
Oh,
And I
sure.
think now that we're changing or moving towards the DSDP now, that can easily be changed to put LCAP, DSP, and make this more understandable for what we're really rating.
Okay, well, that was my question, so thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, so don't be afraid to do that. I mean, these are actually governance statements that have been used for a few years now. But as things change and evolve, you know, we need to make sure that we're keeping up on, you know, on things like your self eval and asking the right questions, you know, to get you thinking in those terms. So if this section was a little confusing because it doesn't line up to what exactly we're doing now, then feel free to rewrite that. I mean, that's okay.
You know, I think what's missing here, not necessarily the wording here, but when I think about this, because, yeah, we have the LCAP and it's published and what have you, but the communication piece and the branding of it, like, and that's what we just talked about that just yesterday and kept, like, so I have a team that's gonna work on, so the community and everybody knows these are the goals, like, as they like, that we're working on this year. 5, these are the 5, you know, yeah, it's LCAP, but that doesn't really tell the whole story there. I think we have to let people know, brochure, infographic, you know, that we've talked about that, you know, we've talked about that too, to say, these are the, you know, it's clearly stated goals for the District 22-23 and on, you know, this is what we're working on. And I think that's missing right now, to be honest with you, because we could refer to the LCAP, which is true, you're absolutely, that is our strategic plan. But again, so there's even more clarity for people out there, you know, and we are, not because I want to be a jokester here, but my goal is to have this wrapped up. You know, I have a team print shop, you know, because they're so good at what they do, to develop how we're gonna put it out there so it sticks, because we're missing that piece. We're not making it stick. Market. We're not marketing the way, for example, is to use Cryrop's nifty, you know, brochure that they develop, Redlands, you know, they have a nice little brochure that they develop. So we have a newsletter that we have, but it's not very clear, it's not advertised, marketed, like Frank said. And that's missing that. That's why there's lack of clarity per se.
And with the number 2, we're monitoring annual implementation of the goals, and we talked about quarterly reports. I think the first one will be in October. So I just want us as a board to be clear for you as to what we expect, you know, what are we gonna be monitoring and what information, what data will we be bringing forth. Because personally for myself, I'm looking at professional learning, it's like, okay, a great need in our district is early literacy, you know, K3 literacy. So myself, as a board member, I would want to see in October, what is in place for professional learning to address our kinder to 3rd grade, so that they're reading, so we have a solid, robust literacy program. So that to me is what I'm expecting in October. I don't know. The board has the same idea, or
I think if we are going to, as Frank said, promote what we're doing and market what we're doing with this process, I think key is gonna be those quarterly updates. And they not only need to be to the board, but they need to be to the public. Because otherwise, the people are gonna look at it, if we market this thing, And then they don't hear anything of how it's working. And then it's, oh, it's just another program that they're doing. And we don't want this to be that. We want this to be a living, breathing thing that we're constantly working on. And even if the first report says, okay, we didn't get everything done we wanted to do in this 3 months or 2 months or whatever, but this is what we got done, and this is what we wanna do for the next quarter. But we need to not only market it in general, but what are we doing with it? Because otherwise it serves no purpose. People will see a flyer and say, ugh, another thing Colton's trying. They're not gonna take it serious. So we have to take it seriously for them to take it seriously.
That's the only way. And in marketing, I think that one of the things that we probably should do is at least once a month, at every school site, when they have their staff meetings, something related to our goals, our direction should be said by the people.
I
As a
like that, I
reminder
like
to-
that a lot.
As a reminder to all the staff that this is where we're headed. Even if it's just maybe something that we put a framework up where they can put it up on a smart board or wherever and just show it. And then just we pick one topic, one area. This is what we like to see happen in our school. This is what, the superintendent, the board is reaching for, So something to that effect where they get an opportunity, 5-10 minutes to just discuss what they think, what ideas they might have relative to what they're doing, and keep it, like Pat was saying, you gotta keep it alive. And it's gonna start with our staff, our teachers, our administrators, to keep it going. And then from there, we wanna see it spread out to the families, to the parents, to the community. And that should be something every time you have community cabinet. 5-minute thing on it. Coming from you, this is where we're at with this. So.
Right. Does every principal have one day a month that they do professional development on a Wednesday? I would be very interested. I understand what you're saying, but I was focused a little bit more on what is her topic of, what is she gonna cover this month, or he gonna cover this month that aligns to our goals? What is it? What did they do? And if teachers wanna give input on that, that's fine. But I think for us to let principals know, you have one day a month to talk about professional development. How are you using it? So we as a board can hear what they're doing to give us ideas on how we're implementing math, how we're doing, whatever it is that they've chosen to work on. I think that'd be very valuable.
Universal, Joanne, where we, the district comes up with talking points.
Exactly
And
what I was
that
gonna say.
particular day, this is just another thought, all the district, anywhere you walk into any staff meeting, you know exactly what the talking points are.
Some type of guidelines, something that they can understand.
Something maybe, I don't know
So,
that.
we talk about being equitable and we want everybody to be on the same page. So if the district were to bring something to say, okay, at your professional development meeting this month, your topic, well, just an idea. So that way, like Mr. Vada said, we know that every school principal, every school is talking about the same thing. That way, when each and every one of the teachers and staff talk, oh yeah, we talked about that too. Oh, we shared about this too. Everyone's on the same page and
But
understands. I'm sorry.
some schools are much farther ahead in whatever their process is. It isn't one size fits all, because some schools are really moving forward with their language arts program. And other people are just learning letters and so I think it depends upon where the principal is in her staff development program. I don't know that we can do a one size fits all.
Well, maybe not one size fits all, but something to kind of guide them. Because even if there's schools that are up higher, they can still talk about that topic. Talk about that topic, but they can probably talk it at this level. Other than the other schools that are not at that level, they can probably talk about it at this level, trying to get everybody to at one point. And if it takes a year, 2 years, 3 years, I don't know, so that every school becomes this instead of just being here.
Yeah, it's good. We've actually we've set up our principals meeting this year, restructured them all. to focus on DSDP in the morning. So that all the principals, APs, everybody talks the same language. Because you gotta get everybody, you're right, everybody's on different level. Most of our principals and have gone through NISL and most of them, not all. But everybody's at a different level, as we know, in different leadership levels too. Right, there's some leaders that just, you really don't even have to
Yeah, same.
tell them much before you know it, they're like, take off, right? And and so we sometimes have to slow down a little bit. But how do you get everybody at the same level? So you gotta get everybody to speak that same language, understand the framework, to understand the goals, where we're going. And so this whole year, Tina, and I'll give Tina the credit because she came to me and said, we gotta restructure our principal. And I said, what? And I said, what, I said, no, we're not gonna do that. She goes, we're gonna do it. And we did, so, so, but you're right. So I like the idea too of, so whatever the PD that principals are getting at the principals meeting, related to, like the focus person on literacy, or that they go back and implement it and go back to the sites and say, here's best practice, or here's what we want to see, so that where it's consistency across the board. Now, of course, again, we're gonna be at different levels.
Yes.
There's no question about it. I mean, but to have that common message, a common, is important, I think. And
So
we're all over the
you're
place.
gonna discuss one thing that you're gonna have them work on?
Well, right now, this year, all we did was just try to get all the principals to speak that common language in the DSDP, the understanding the plan, understanding.
No, but you're saying like for next year, when you gave the example about reading. Because if you throw at principals, okay, these are the 3 things we want you to work on, that's not gonna work. You have to give them one thing to concentrate on and get the people on board and work towards. Because otherwise, if you throw too much at people, it's better they do one thing right than 3 things bad.
I can guarantee you, there's principals that have sat home now, if they're home on vacation, they've already done the professional development throughout the year, based on DSP. So all of a sudden, if they come back in August and you say, okay, now this is what you're gonna do first month and second month, they won't throw them, but you'll feel them. Because some people just know what they need to do, and so if it aligns with DSTP in some way, and they're the leaders of the instruction program at their school. And so whatever you say this month, I want you to cover this topic, whatever they were planning to do, they can gear it in that direction. I hate to be told after all that to change it.
You know what, too,
Right.
we're talking about different levels, and I think some of us experience this when, I've run several programs over the years. And when you go into, say, a conference, or you go somewhere to a different city, and you realize that your program is above and beyond what everybody else is doing, makes you feel really good. So I'm saying that only because we will get some principals who are already running with this. So those typically are the principals or the staffs that are looking to say, okay, how can we improve on what we're doing? And that's what we want. Or how can we share what we've accomplished with another school? And so with the technology the way it is, having maybe 2 principals on the smart board discussing, okay, how can we help each other get to this mark, or being creative in that way. There's a lot of possibilities. So
I'm hoping that part of the restructuring of principals meetings is to allow the principals
For collaboration.
to collaborate and on successful practices. And to me, that's, because
That's key.
they're the instructional leaders.
Yeah, 'cause
They
if you have
know
a
what
principal
needs
that's
to
up
be
here
done.
and a principal that's kind of here, this level, we can get these 2 principals together so they can start working together to make them you know,
Yeah,
understand.
they are collaborating, that's happening,
Yeah.
happening practices, absolutely. But,
And that should be part of our report too, letting us know this is what we're doing with our principals as part of the PD on that. So when that report comes in, we get the report on the literacy part, the mathematic part, the whatever else, and what are we doing with our administration, our leaders at our schools?
How are we supporting them?
How are we supporting them? And what is the outcome of what they are learning in their PD?
Okay, and just going back to the goal setting and planning, what this tells me with the CJUSD system design plan that we're gonna be implementing, along with the quarterly reports, to me, this is very promising to do what we're here to do, to stay focused on student achievement. I love this, because we will not be derailed. We are going to go back to that and keep the focus on student achievement, student learning, and we will be talking kids. We're gonna be talking kids more this school year than ever before. That's my hope.
And that's what Jerry said to me when we first started this whole idea 3 years ago, that we're gonna start really focusing on what we're doing district-wide and all have the same understanding, and this is what we're gonna do, and now we're just be advertising what we're doing.
Yep, yeah, and that's definitely, it's that focus, and I'll say it this way, teaching and learning.
Yeah.
We need learning leaders at the sites. Principals have to be those learning leaders, that's what we hired them to be, number one, right? To lead that instructional program at the sites, to get, but they need professional development. Principals need it, everybody needs it, we all need it. And that's why we're focusing on what? Professional development. Thank you for asking. That's why we're focusing on professional learning, because we need not only, it's not just about certificated, but it's also classified. We have instructional aides, custodians need to know, everybody needs to know, what are we doing in Colton, Georgia, and Republic? It's gonna require everybody. Jamal Boyce, our IT director, is involved with DSTP. He
And I
has to know
remember when we first
you know,
started DSDP as part of it,
Yeah.
that was the goal.
Yeah.
Is to what are we gonna do for our kids? What are we gonna do with our staff? How are we gonna develop our staff to become those learning leaders? As learning leaders, what are we gonna do with our kids also? Because they're gonna have to be responsible too, to learn, because we're trying to make a difference. We're trying to make a change for the positive. I remember the one of our meetings where we talked about that red line and the discussion we had over that. And you know, how we were meeting it, not meeting it, which way, where we're going. I think you're right, Frank. I think you're on it. And I think what Jerry said, it's all about the kids. It's all about our quality of education that we're gonna bring to these kids.
Right. One thing I'll say, what's gonna separate the work that we're doing today is the fact that there's a theory of action. If we do this, then that. We've never had that. So the theory of action, and when you look at the research, what the research says, we've done a lot of research. We spend hundreds of hours on this. And we continue to grow as we continue to get better. And this goes for us. I mean, we're going to move our district, move the schools in that direction. That theory action is so powerful, because we're going to say, if we do this, then this is going to happen. If we, provide training for on literacy, then our reading score should go up. If we do it, so we have in our plan that theory of action that's so powerful. Now, sometimes you do something that doesn't work out, right?
But that's how
It's
you
the
learn.
continuous improvement. So that's what's in our plan that we're gonna focus on, not all these like strategies and give everybody, so there's several key strategies that we have to accomplish before we gotta get those done. And so I think in a nutshell, that's really why I think this is gonna be successful. I mean,
Well, thank you for allowing us to spend time on this.
Well,
because
absolutely.
It was really,
I'd like to put one more, if we have principals submit, a short paragraph about, but I'd also, for those who were weren't afraid to do this, it would be helpful from the principal's perspective. What challenges do you have right now where you are? What can we as a district, so that a way that we can see that, so that we know how we need to maybe find some funds to do something, or just to give us an idea of, because it's hard to start something like this, and you have, not, I don't want naysayers, because you're always gonna have some of that, but really thoughtful feedback from the principal about, okay, what's the challenge here? What do you need help with from us? If they're willing to say that, so that we can look at that and help them and give them, as a board, the support that we need, that they need for that.
It's a good opportunity for, I think, for a survey to send out to them and say,
I don't think a survey, I think if they're gonna send us a little blurb,
Okay.
what is, because if a survey, we're giving them ideas. I want the idea to come from around what they went through, they did this training. What are the challenges the teachers maybe shared with them in doing it, to take them to the next level, because if there's challenges and we can help get them to the next level, then they're gonna continue to move up.
yeah.
Okay, thanks. Said our piece. And, Mr. Bray, I just, on behalf of the board, I want to thank you so much for your help. What is it, 3 years? That you've
About
been,
3 years, yes.
3 years that you've been with us, and I want to just thank you for your support and your guidance in this process.
It's been an absolute pleasure on my part to work with all of you. So have a great year next year, and thank you.
See you next.
Thank you.
I get the pleasure of seeing Vic quite often.
Yes,
We're neighbors.
we live 6 houses
Yeah.
away from one another.
Oh, wow.
So we walk,
Yeah.
my wife and I walk right by.
I was working on my elliptical or something. I was feeling better and started to put together elliptical.
Okay, we're adjourning
I guess we gotta
and,
cut.
we're adjourning at 7:05. Thank you.